everybody. This is Burnett with the Buyer's Box podcast. Today we have a very special guest from Florida, Jamie Seneca.
Hey, Ali, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you tell everybody a little bit about you, your team, and your real estate experience?
Hey guys, I'm Jamie Seneca. We have a team ridge here in South Florida. Got in the business in 2009, just grinded my way from where we are, from the bottom, from where we are today. Started a team ridge. We're 15 agents strong and growing. So it's just very exciting to be part of that journey.
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely different team models. Team Ridge is, can you explain for anybody that doesn't know what a Team Ridge is?
Yeah, so a team ridge is a brokerage that operates like a team. I always came from the big box brokerages, and when I ripped apart my perfectly great real estate business, I was like, I'm going to start a team ridge, which really encompasses just systems, processes, scalability for agents to plug in to be able to scale their businesses as a team.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Jamie travels in a lot of the same circles as us with Reside, and their team operates very similar to ours. And so I'm excited to kind of talk about a topic that we haven't talked about yet, which Jamie, I'll let you share it because you say it way better than I could.
Just removing the emotion from the business, right? And how to create sustainable foundation with systems and predictability to have agents scale to whatever growth goals that they have imaginable. And I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that, and they should.
Yeah, I know, because when you think about emotions, I think about what comes to mind immediately is when a deal's not going the right way, somebody stands you up for the showing, you have the client who says that they're going to do one thing, and then all of a sudden they just like turn like the total different direction. So talk to me
Mhm.
a little bit about how are you coaching your agents through that?
So really, when we started Reset, like we reverse engineered like the business model of like what a brokerage should look like. So because it all starts in stages, right? Like it all starts from the foundation. From the foundation, you build systems and processes and scale. And then once agents put in the reps, now they start to see the emotion of the client, what to expect during the transaction, and then starting to coach them through all of those processes. So really, we take it down from the bottom and then work them way through the actual experience to help them get to conversion and master the emotional side of real estate.
Sure. All right, start me from the bottom. I'm a brand new agent. Like you're coaching me. What do I do?
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, you're going to want to plug into a CRM, right? So, the one of the big things was like, how do we fill the gaps in this industry? You've interviewed like so many agents, as have I, and like I'm sure just like sellers and buyers, they all have the same objections and they all have the same reservations and things that they feel that are holding them back in this industry. For me, it was I don't have systems, right? I don't have a roadmap to plug into to scale. I don't know what to do, right? I love my broker, but I don't know where my next deal is coming from. Like we see all of those reasons why agents can't be successful or feel like they can't be successful. So it all starts with the groundwork and it all starts from the mindset and from emotion. So I always tell like everyone on our team, I'm like, whether you can, your mindset, right? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're 100% right. It's just which mindset are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the I can do it mindset? Or are you going to choose the I can't do it mindset? Because that's the only differentiator from a top producer in this industry and then someone who's trying to make it. So we really start from a mindset perspective of like, okay, we're going to start you at ground zero. We're going to bring you through the foundational systems and the boring stuff that we took 3 years to build to make sure we could perfect that for you. And then let's train your brain on how to overcome, which is hard to do, but it takes time and it takes reps.
Yeah, for sure. In
Yeah.
the words of our teenagers, you just got to be a little like Delulu. We meet a lot of agents that I think sometimes need a little bit of encouragement. And Andrew says a lot about like there's a skill and then there's a will. And I think what you're really describing is the will. I mean, how do you harness that? If you're an agent out there in the world and you're like panicking because you can't pay your bills, you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from, you get the systems in place. Okay, now what?
So what we do is we really like sit down with the agents and we make sure that they're aware of like the risk first before getting into the industry or even coming over to our brokerage, right? Because a lot of people think it's like, okay, I got my license, right? I learned about everything that can go wrong from a legal perspective, but they're never actually taught what to do from a skill perspective to convert. So I see a lot of agents, they get discouraged way too quickly. They'll come into the business, they'll get on the phones for a week, they're not getting the results that they want, and then they'll quit, right? Or they think it's too hard and they don't want to keep showing up for themselves. So we always just get their mindset right. Like the first 90 days, you need to make sure you have money in the bank. You need to make sure you have a cushion to float you. And then we're going to give you a roadmap to show you how many meaningful conversations you have to have a day, what that needs to compound and look like. We're going to look at your conversion numbers. We're going to see, are you average? Are you below average? Are you above average? And help you build out that roadmap to predictable income. But sometimes it takes agents 30 days if they're highly skilled. On average, it could take 90, but if someone genuinely has never been on the phones before, hasn't had a real estate conversation, it could be 6 months before they're actually selling real estate, right? And a lot of people don't understand that and don't prepare themselves for that. And then it leads to a second job or it leads to getting out of the industry, which is unfortunate, you know?
Yeah, I know. And it's interesting because, we've had agents that have joined our team and like we had one agent, he was a past military guy. He's not a salesperson at all. We
Mhm.
love him. He's not a salesperson, but he did the work. And within 90 days, he had three paychecks. We had another person, he was a salesperson and he did the work and he had one paycheck in the first month. But we've had people that have tried, really hard, been in real estate for some time, and it's taken a while. Sometimes it's a hit or miss, but I really think it's all based on the metrics. So, what are some of the metrics that, you're giving your team, or what is a day in a life of an agent that would be on your team?
Yeah, so we've dialed that down to a science based on the systems we have in place and the lead flow that have in place. And it took us like 2 years of game film to like really look at that and really look at the agents who are producing to the standard that we set or going over and above because they have higher goals than the standard that we set, and then comparing that to the ones who are not hitting standard. So like in our world, 100 calls with nobody answering will take an hour, right? You don't want no one to answer when you're making 100 calls, but in our world, 100 calls, you'll get at least on average 7 meaningful conversations. And from those 7 meaningful conversations, meaning they expressed buying, selling, real estate, you know, their location, their motivation, the reason that you can like service them to help them buy, sell, or invest in real estate. From those 7 meaningful conversations, our agents are typically pulling 3 to 4 into their name as a potential client to work them. And then if you look at that compounding month over month, year over year, 7 meaningful conversations equates to 35 a week. Times that by 5 days, 5 working days in the week, times that by 4 weeks in the month. That's 140 meaningful conversations. That ends up to be 2 to 4 closings a month. So if you hit that metric consistently with us, it becomes predictable. But the hard part is the consistency. And the hard part is the willingness to show up and do the work. And that's where we see a lot of agents struggle. On the front end of that, just having the will enough to keep going. And then we also see the drop off on the follow up, right? They'll put all the work into getting those clients to getting that potential. Now they have an awesome pipeline and then they drop the ball on follow up, and then those clients end up buying or selling with another agent.
Sure.
So that's where we've tried to fill the gaps for our organization to avoid that, you know, and to give agents a predictable business where they don't feel like they are struggling or riding the emotional roller coaster of this business.
Sure. Yeah. And we tell our
Yeah.
agents often, you want to, I think your numbers are basically the same as ours. For every 100 calls, 10 people answer. Out of those 10, you need to have 80%, which was, that 7 to 8. And then,
Hmm.
3 or 4, you might pull into your name that are buying in the next year. So our metrics are honestly about the same.
That's
But we always tell our agents, imagine you have a bucket, and every time you put a lead into your bucket, your bucket's getting higher, 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 higher. But if you
awesome.
stop following up, now there's a leak in your bucket. Now you're putting stuff in the top and stuff is falling out the bottom. So
Yeah.
how are you, building that day-to-day predictability with your agents? Do you have a schedule that you keep them on? How are you coaching them around? A lot of agents, what I see is they want it. Like I really believe that they desire it, but
Mhm.
maybe they just don't have that structure. Like how are you helping agents in that way?
Yeah, so we adopted the Money Time calendar. I think you guys run Money Time, right?
Yeah, we do that. Yep.
Oh yeah. So Money Time has been game changing for our organization. Shout out to Chris Snow, who has been the advocate for Money Time. But really it comes down to time blocking, which also comes back to the whole systems and leverage, right? Systems protect you from yourself. Like straight up. They protect you from yourself. Time blocking protects you from yourself. You need to implement that into your business in order to build something predictable and scalable. So, what we have done is we do money time. We have our agents sign up for shifts. Those shifts usually run, one like 4 hours each, give or take, giving them the agents time to time block their schedule and to build that around other obligations in their life. When you look at those time blocks, and I'm sure it's the same in your organization, the amount of time you're time blocking to prospect is less than a part-time job. Like less than a part-time job. And it's hard because a lot of agents feel that it's too much effort. And then that's where the disconnect happens because they feel that they're putting in too much effort, but it's actually less than a part-time job if you're working at for somebody and it will yield full-time results. So we really just break it down to let's set that foundational piece, let's work our systems, let's protect you from you, plug and play. Plug and play into our systems, use our smart lists. We have everything built in to help them not drop the ball. And now just show up for your shifts, get your time blocking in, and then slowly compounds into sales. You know?
Sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we do money time shift as well. So we do 8 to 12, 12 to 4, and 4 to 8. Now, however, I think we have 12 or 13 eligible agents right now that can sign up for money time shifts. So not everybody's working a money time shift every single day. And I'm sure that's the same with your organization. So what are you telling the agents to do on the days that they're not working money time shift? Should they still use that time frame?
They should still be time blocking. I mean, your pipeline is your oxygen in this industry, as you know. Like agents should be focusing on their pipeline and their pipeline only. And then once they have clients, focus on your clients, your follow-up, and your negotiations, right? So from when you ask the question of like, what's a team ridge model? For us, a team ridge model is we've leveraged out the 80% that agents should not be doing, which is building the systems, building the website, building the landing pages, right? Building the smart list, figuring out how to do a freaking Canva template. Like, why? Like, you don't need to do that unless you really want to do that. You know what I mean? So we've leveraged out the 80% so the agents can focus on that 20. And that's what they really need to be focusing on. If you don't have a pending, you need to be prospecting. Prospecting is pipeline, pipeline yields results.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
it.
I
It's
love that
actually
formula.
pretty simple. It's pretty simple, but it's not that simple at the same time. You know?
Sure. Absolutely. And we actually have a lot of agents that are listening that have Follow Up Boss and maybe they're not on a team. What do your smart lists look like?
Oh wow. Okay, so we have win the day. And
Okay.
we break it down to pretty much here's your A's, your B's, your C's, your D's. Your A's need follow-up every 7 days, your B's need follow-up every 14 days, your C's need it every 30 days, and your D's need it every I think 60 days, if I recall correctly. You just go through your win the day. Those are clients that you actually have in your name, and that helps you from the dropping balls from the follow-up perspective, because that's where we see the most fallout, right? So you just go into our systems, you do win the day every day. Once you get that out of the way, you've already talked to your A's, your B's, your C's, your D's, you've done your nurtures, you followed up with them, and now you can plug into your time blocking shift to do your money time calendar. So it makes it easy and predictable. And I think one thing in this industry, and I'm sure you could agree, is like everyone thinks you need to create the next new shiny object, right? When it's really boring, mundane consistency is like what gets someone from 0 to 100 plus transactions.
Exactly. I tell Andrew all the time, I'm like, what is the most unsexy thing that we can do? Prospecting.
Prospecting, but that's what builds our business, right? Like literally, I'm in the office every day. Like sometimes I'm like, just like I'm there all day, like on the phones prospecting. If I don't have business, that's what I'm doing. And I'm still running a team, prospecting my own business. Like it's just what you need to do to to build a good business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And one thing that's been awesome and has been a recurring theme, and I've said this every podcast, is every person that we've had on the show, they've all said consistency, doing the work, and doing the boring stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think it's great because we've had people from all over the country say very similar things, have similar processes, all a little bit
Hmm.
different, but same similar processes. And I think going back to taking the emotion out of it, I think
Yeah.
what you're saying, and tell me if I'm hearing this wrong, is that the emotion really comes from uncertainty. It comes from not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from, not knowing the next step to do. And what you're outlining is having that process in place, doing the same boring thing every single day, day in, day out.
Yeah. I mean, I say like emotion's the silent killer, right, of your business, but also think of emotions like how do you regulate your emotions? You have to get your reps in, right? Like if we go to the gym, right? If you're just going to the gym for the first time, you're starting off emotional because, why am I not as strong as I want to be, right? Like, why is this making me get out of breath? Because I feel like I look okay, but I'm not as strong as the person who's beside me. It's kind of the same thing it is exactly the same thing with prospecting. It's like, get those reps in, get the heart out, get all those no's, get the rejection. How are you going to be a better agent? How are you going to be a better communicator if you don't put yourself in a scenario to talk to people to deal with uncomfortable situations? Like you're just not going to become better. And then like it's actually really interesting because you had Nikki on the podcast. She's
Yes,
the queen of conversion. Love her to
I
death.
love her.
I had an agent ask me the other day, "Oh my God, she sounds so amazing. How long do you think it took her to get there?" Right? That's eye-opening. Nikki puts in the reps, right? What did she transfer 700 like opportunities to the team that she worked on or something crazy like that in
Yeah, it's
1 year?
something
Something
phenomenal.
wild, but she put the reps in just like us. I remember when I first got in the business, I would like my hands would shake on the phone, right? I sold one of my first properties I ever sold was a 55 and over property to an all ages person. Like, obviously, that deal fell apart because I screwed up. I didn't know what
Oh,
the hell I was doing, but I didn't let emotion get a hold of me. You just get the reps in, you keep going and going and going, and your skill gets better and better and better.
yeah.
It's always action versus skill.
That's funny you say that about the first house I ever sold. I love him. I love him. But so Andrew had another showing, and this is like a total side quest, but Andrew had another showing, and this client texted and said, "Hey, I want to go see 123 Sesame Street." Well, 123 Sesame Street was a $930,000 beach house, and so he was like, "Oh, I don't know, like, you know, may or may not be real. I got proof of funds." I set the appointment. I met him at the office, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm nervous." I'm like, "You got to come with me. You got to come with me." And so he went with me, and this guy, he pulled up, and he pulled up in a purple Rolls Royce. Okay. And then he gets out and he looks very, very similar to Jelly Roll. Like he's like really tall, got tattoos all over. And then he was the nicest guy ever, but I was like panicking. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm like, don't leave me here. I'm scared. I don't know what to do in this showing. And so luckily we sold him the house. So and I only showed it one time. So that was like the luckiest first closing story ever. Um
That's awesome. That is
yeah.
so awesome.
But yeah,
And
I know
how
that.
emotional were you then? And now, if you walked into that situation now, would you actually have the same butterflies and be that unsure of yourself? Probably not.
No, probably not. But at that in that moment, I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God." I'm like, it's like real because I always talk about a lot of agents, once you get over the phone mastery, and we can talk about this too, like you're
Yeah.
past the phone mastery, now you're meeting someone in the office. How are you keeping your agent's emotions down in that moment?
I always tell everyone be the calming force in every transaction. That was advice given to me like back in the day, and it served me very, very well because that is one thing I see very predominantly in agents is that they allow their emotion to dictate the transaction, which then is exposed to the client experience where they're already nervous and it could actually end up killing a deal, right? Right? You interject your opinion too soon, you lead with emotion, it could just kill a transaction. So I always tell everyone, listen, be the calming force in every transaction. You're here to take control, but with confidence and understanding, like asking them questions. Where are they coming from? What is their why? Why do they need to move? It's never a one size fits all. Like someone could be going through divorce, someone could have a death in the family, maybe there's relocation and they're uneasy. Just like asking the questions and understanding the really deep layer behind the motivation of moving, and then tailoring your presentation and your communication towards their needs, not yours. And I think that's really important because agents tend to interject their emotion because they're more worried about themselves, and not from a bad way. It's maybe an unrealizing selfish way that they want
Mhm.
the deal now, but the client might not be ready. So you need to fix your emotions and your communication to understand you need to meet them where they're at when they're ready to transact, you know?
Sure. Yeah. And I think sometimes, especially in the beginning, you're focused on the final outcome, which might be step 10, and you're only at step
Hmm.
2. And so taking it, step by step by step by step, which is why, if you're out there in the world and you're not part of the team, and even if, you're not in Myrtle Beach or you're not in South Florida, you want to plug in with either a mentor or a team
Oh, yeah.
or somebody out there that can just kind of give you the guardrails of this is what should be happening in this part of the process. Okay, now we're done with this. We're moving on to the next step of the process.
Agents get anxiety when they don't have a deal in the pipeline, hence needing to prospect. So that's super important because let's say you have a deal that's going south and now your emotions are tied to step 10 when you're still at step 1, right? And now you see the paycheck that was coming to you falling away. Your emotions are tied to that because you didn't prospect enough, right? So that's why going back to money time, going back to time blocking is so important because now you're not riding the emotional roller coaster of real estate, which every agent, I mean, what's the statistic? 71% of agents haven't sold a house in 2 years, which is wild. Trying
So
to think
crazy
that,
to me.
which is crazy, which is unfortunate, right? But how many of them didn't have system structure, predictability? If they had that, would they succeed? I think so, yes. You know what I mean? Because I actually think people who get their license and who get into the business actually want to make it. They just don't have a roadmap to get them there, which is important, like yourself, to plug into a team that actually has systems, lead flow, if you're lucky enough, right? Processes and leverage to help them get to step 2. But back to what you said on that, like the emotion of losing a deal, it's not emotional when you have four other buyers or sellers in the pipeline who are going to transact. You're like, you know what? Okay, I take that as a loss. I have 4 other people. I've already been prospecting every day as I should. It all starts to compound, and then the predictability reduces the anxiety, and then you just can keep going and master that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I even think, as a team leader, like it's a little heartbreaking for us too
Oh
to
God.
watch that happen to one of
Yeah.
your agents and they're like, I can't, pay for groceries or I can't pay my mortgage or ABC because I was waiting on this one deal to go through. So,
Mhm.
most team leaders, I mean, honestly, you got to have a big heart to be a team leader because you're sacrificing a lot of what you could be making or should be making to help, feed into other people and to like make a difference in their lives. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's heartbreaking even as a team leader, like watching that happen to agents, especially when real estate is not something that happens overnight. It's something that, it's a snowball that occurs over the course of time.
Yeah. And in your organization, I'd love to compare notes, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
when you see those agents who are unfortunately in that position, right, who are struggling and maybe they do need to get a second job or the deal fell apart and now it's impacting their bills and things like that. When you look at their numbers, what do you see? Because I know what I see. We can compare notes.
Yeah, I mean,
It comes
normally
down to,
no calls, no connects,
mhm,
no conversations, I think there's some agents that I've talked to and I my heart breaks for them because I want more for them, but there's some agents that just are like waiting on something to come to them. And that's just not how real estate works. It's not how real estate works in this market. I don't have a crystal ball, so perhaps that could happen into the future, but
mhm.
highly unlikely.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the productivity.
100%. And that's what we see too, right? If you're putting the reps in, like that's where it goes back to action and skill. Like if you're putting the reps in, you're getting your numbers in, and you're not having the results you're supposed to see, now we just need to work on your skills. And we need to figure out, okay, what are you saying on the phone? What is the messaging? Are you feeling like they're ghosting you too soon? And maybe you're just giving up on them when actually they're going to be buying within 30, 60 days, maybe with somebody else because you gave up, right? That's where
Sure.
we bring it back to coaching and try to help them through that. And yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm just curious, and maybe the answer is no, but like right now, we're really communicating through phone calls number one, text number two, emails number three, and then obviously property trips number four. Are there any other ways that you guys are communicating with clients outside of those?
I mean, video text too. And then we've really adopted like Zoom consultations. So we try really hard to get that appointment set. I think the statistic is like from every buyer or seller or client that you meet in person, like 67% of them will transact with like the first agent that they meet. So getting that in-person meeting or just setting that tone after you've spoken to them on the phone, like how are you separating yourself from the hundreds of thousands of other agents out there, right? Like we'll send video texts and things like that too. But there's really nothing like the same stuff works today that worked for me in 2009, right? Pick up the phone, talk to as many people as you possibly can, and get creative behind it when you feel that you need to get creative behind it, but you don't really need to do that in the beginning.
Sure, sure. I
Mhm.
agree. So yeah, it's just getting those reps in. It doesn't really matter how you're doing it, and then just refining the skill over the course of time, which is why we made this podcast, honestly, because we just felt like our reach was a little bit short. So through this podcast, we're able to reach agents that are not in our market, maybe not on our team, and kind of give them some of those resources to, plug one thing into your business. Um, but I think that's all I have for today, unless you want to add anything else.
No, I think this is so great. Thank you for having me be a part of it. And I think one thing, if there's any like new agents or struggling agents out there, right, watching this, like there is teams, there is brokerages, there are people who want to see you succeed, right? It's if you're struggling, you don't have to struggle. It's just reach out to someone who you have seen do what you want to do, and you would be so surprised how many people are actually willing to help. You know what I mean? And just keep going because like I said, the top producers in the industry that you might look up to, they have more bumps and bruises than you could imagine. And sometimes that's also financially because they're investing in other agents and systems to grow. So we just keep pushing through and we just keep pushing through the hard. And that's genuinely the only difference between someone who makes it and someone who's struggling.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think I could have added or said anything else on that. That was awesome. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you,
our podcast.
Ellie.
Thanks.